It was the ship of dreams, the unsinkable giant, a floating palace of luxury and innovation. The RMS Titanic was more than just a vessel. It was a symbol of an era, a testament to human ambition and technological prowess. But on the fateful night of April 14, 1912, that dream turned into a chilling nightmare, a story that continues to haunt and fascinate us over a century later. Today, we're diving deep into the icy waters of history to relive the dramatic story of the Titanic. Our story begins in Belfast, Ireland, at the Harland and Wolff shipyard. The early 20th century was a golden age of transatlantic travel, dominated by intense competition between shipping lines. The White Star Line, to outshine its rival Cunard, envisioned a trio of massive, luxurious liners, the Olympic, the Britannic, and the most famous of them all, the Titanic. Construction began in 1909. It took over 3 years and thousands of workers to bring this marvel to life. The ship was a behemoth for its time, nearly 900 feet long, the length of 3 football fields, and as tall as an 11-story building. Its interiors were opulently decorated, featuring a grand staircase, a swimming pool, a gymnasium, and exquisite dining rooms, all designed to cater to the wealthiest passengers. But it wasn't just about luxury. Titanic was also built with safety in mind, boasting a double-bottomed hull and 16 watertight compartments. These compartments were designed so that if 4 of them flooded, the ship could still stay afloat. This engineering feat led the popular press to declare it practically unsinkable. This phrase, filled with tragic irony, would echo through history. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic embarked on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, destined for New York City. On board were over 2,200 people, a mix of the world's richest, like John Jacob Astor IV, and poor immigrants in third class, all seeking a new life in America. For 4 days, the journey was smooth and uneventful. Passengers marveled at the ship's splendor and the vast, calm ocean. The ship's captain, Edward Smith, a veteran with 40 years of experience, was on his final voyage before retirement. The mood was one of optimism and excitement. But as the Titanic steamed through the North Atlantic, a hidden danger lurked in the darkness. The ship had received multiple warnings of sea ice from other vessels in the area throughout the day on April 14. However, these warnings, for a variety of reasons, never resulted in the ship slowing down significantly. The pressure to set a new speed record on its maiden voyage might have played a role. The night was moonless, the sea deceptively calm, making it incredibly difficult to spot icebergs. At 11:40 p.m., a lookout named Frederick Fleet spotted a massive iceberg directly in the ship's path. He rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge, shouting, "Iceberg, right ahead." The officer on duty immediately ordered the engines to be reversed and the ship to be turned hard to port. But it was too late. The immense momentum of the 46,000-ton vessel made it impossible to steer clear in time. The Titanic grazed the iceberg along its starboard side, a seemingly gentle shudder felt by those on board. Many passengers, awakened by the jolt, were simply told it was nothing to worry about and went back to sleep. But below the waterline, the damage was catastrophic. The iceberg had punched a series of holes along the hull, breaching not 4 but 6 of the ship's 16 watertight compartments. The unsinkable ship was doomed. Thomas Andrews, the ship's chief designer, who was on board, quickly assessed the damage and delivered the grim prognosis to Captain Smith. The Titanic had, at most, 2 hours to live. Chaos slowly began to unfold. As the ship's bow started to dip noticeably into the freezing water, the crew began preparing the lifeboats. Here, a fatal flaw in the ship's design and planning became terrifyingly clear. The Titanic carried only 20 lifeboats, enough for just over half the people on board. This was technically compliant with the outdated safety regulations of the time, which based lifeboat capacity on a ship's tonnage, not its passenger count. The evacuation was disorganized and confused. The crew struggled to manage the process, and in the initial panic, many lifeboats were launched partially empty. The women and children first protocol was followed, but it led to heart-wrenching scenes of families being torn apart. As the deck tilted more steeply, panic escalated. The ship's musicians, led by Wallace Hartley, famously continued to play their calm music a surreal soundtrack to the unfolding disaster. Their bravery provided a small measure of comfort in the midst of terror. By 2:05 a.m., the last lifeboat had departed. Over 1,500 people were still trapped on the sinking ship. The Titanic's angle grew sharper and sharper. The enormous stress on the hull caused the ship to break into between the third and fourth funnels. The bow section sank first, pulling the stern high into the air. For a moment, the stern stood almost vertical against the star-filled sky before it. Two plunged beneath the waves at 2:20 a.m. on April 15th. The great ship was gone. In its place were hundreds of people flailing in the lethally cold water, their cries for help piercing the night. The temperature of the water was just below freezing. Most would perish from hypothermia within minutes. Of the 20 lifeboats, only one returned to the site to search for survivors, pulling just a handful from the water. Less than 2 hours later, the rescue ship RMS Carpathia arrived, having raced through the same ice field at full speed after receiving Titanic's distress call. Its crew worked tirelessly to pull the 705 survivors from the lifeboats. They were a mixture of shock, grief, and disbelief. They were the lucky few who had escaped one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. The news of the sinking sent shockwaves around the world. How could the unsinkable ship have sunk? Inquiries were launched in both Britain and the United States. The disaster led to major reforms in maritime safety. New regulations required all ships to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board, mandated 24-hour radio watches, and led to the formation of the International Ice Patrol to monitor icebergs in the North Atlantic. The story of the Titanic is a powerful reminder of human hubris, the dangers of overconfidence in technology, and the stark class divisions of the era. But it is also a story of incredible bravery, sacrifice, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The wreckage of the Titanic was finally discovered in 1985 by a team led by Robert Ballard. Lying on the ocean floor 2.5 miles deep, it rests there today, a silent, decaying monument to that tragic night. The stories of its passengers, from the wealthiest to the most humble, continue to be told, ensuring that the ship of dreams and the lessons learned from its demise will never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into history.